Good morning, second graders. I'm going to be starting chapter 2 of Bunnicula. This chapter is called Music in the Night. And if there's any pictures or any any illustrations, I'll definitely show you guys. Make sure you're paying attention and listening so that you can answer those questions. I'm checking to see who gets them all right, and I'm giving shout outs to those kids that are completing all of their assignments. Alright, let's get started. I feel at this time there are many things you should know about Chester. He's not your ordinary cat, but then I'm not your ordinary dog. Since an ordinary dog wouldn't be writing this book, would he? Chester came into the house several years ago as a birthday gift for Mr. Monroe, along with 2 volumes of J.K. Chesterton, hence the name Chester, and the first edition of Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. As a result of this introduction to literature, and given the fact that Mr. Monroe is an English professor, Chester developed a taste for reading early in life. I, on the other hand, have developed a taste for books. I found Jonathan Livingston Seagull particularly delicious. From Chester's kittenhood on, Mr. Monroe has used him as a sounding board for all the student lectures. If Chester doesn't fall asleep when Mr. Monroe is talking, the lecture can be counted as a success. Every night when the family is sleeping, Chester goes to the bookshelf, selects his midnight reading, and curls up on his favorite chair. He especially likes mystery stories and tales of horror and the supernatural. As a result, he has developed a very vivid imagination. I'm telling you this because I think it's important for you to know something about Chester's background before I relate to you the story of the events following the arrival of Bunnicula into our home. Let me begin with the first night. It seems that after I went to sleep, Chester, still stewing over his lost milk, settled down with the latest book and attempted to ignore the rambling of his stomach. The room was dark and quiet. This did not prevent the reading, of course. Since, as you know, cats can see in the dark, a shaft of moonlight fell across the rabbit cage and spilled onto the floor below. The wind and rain had stopped, and as Chester read Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of the Usher, he became increasingly aware of the eerie stillness that had taken their place. As Chester tells it, he suddenly felt compelled to look at the rabbits. I don't know what came over me, he said to me the next morning, but a cold chill ran down my spine. The little bunny had begun to move for the first time since he had been put into the cage. He lifted his tiny nose and inhaled deeply, as if the gathering sustenance from the moonlight. He slicked his ears back close to his body, and for the first time, Chester said, I noticed the peculiar marking on his forehead. What had seemed an ordinary black spot between his ears took on a strange V shape, which connected with the big black patch that covered his back and each side of his neck. It looked as if he was wearing a coat, no more like a cape than a coat. Through the silence had drifted the strains of a remote and exotic music. Alright, this is kind of one of the pictures that's on. So it's kind of like a picture of Chester, and then you can see the bunny over there in the corner. And he is stepping on a bug because he's reading the tall tale, the Fall of the House of the Usher by Allan Poe, which is a great poem. Or not poem, sorry, short story. Alright, let's keep going. I could have sworn it was a gypsy violin, Chester told me. I thought perhaps a caravan was passing by, so I ran to the window. I remember my mother telling me something about a caravan when I was a puppy, but for the life of me I couldn't remember. What's a caravan? I asked, feeling a little stupid. A caravan is a band of gypsies traveling through the forest in their wagons, Chester answered. Ah, yes, it's coming back to me now. Station wagons. No, covered wagons. The gypsies all travel through the land, setting up camps around great bonfires, doing magical tricks, and sometimes, if you cross their palms with a piece of silver, they'll tell you your fortune. You mean, if I give them a fork, they tell me my fortune? I asked breathlessly. Chester looked at me with disdain. Save your silver, he said. It wasn't a caravan after all. I was disappointed. What was it? I asked. Chester explained that when he looked out the window, he saw Professor Micklewhite, our next-door neighbor, playing the violin in his living room. He listened for a few moments to the haunting melody and sighing with relief. I really got to stop reading these horror stories late at night, he thought. It's beginning to affect my mind. He yawned and turned to go back to his chair and get some sleep. As he turned, however, he was startled by what he saw. There in the moonlight, as music filtered through the air, sat the bunny, his eyes intent and staring an unearthly aura about them. Now, this is the part where you won't believe, Chester said to me, but as I watched his lips parted in a hideous smile, and where a rabbit's buck teeth should have been, two little pointed fangs glistened. I wasn't sure what to make of Chester's story, but the way he told it, it set my hair on end. And that's it for chapter 2. I'm gonna do chapter 3 as well, but I'm gonna put it in a different video for a different day.